Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Last Thursday, I got the chance to see the newest film in the long-running franchise, Bad Boys Ride or Die. And I just want to start off with saying, they really jumped the shark in naming Bad Boys 3 Bad Boys for Life. They didn't know they were going to get the opportunity to make a fourth one, but the fact that the fourth one is called Bad Boys Ride or Die and the third one is called Bad Boys for Life, it's just one of those missed opportunities, you know? Anyway, so when Bad Boys for Life was coming out, there was a 15-year gap from when we got the last Bad Boys film. And I myself personally was not that big of a fan of Bad Boys 2. I thought they went really silly with it in terms of just like the things the bad boys were doing, driving Hummers through villages that were blowing up. And it jumped the shark for me personally. So I wasn't one of the people that were super excited when they announced Bad Boys for Life. But being a cinephile that I am, I do go to the movies every single Thursday to see opening nights for pretty much every film you could think of, even ones I'm not excited about. I did drag my feet a little bit, but the idea of Martin Lawrence and Will Smith being on screen together did have me somewhat excited. And I have to say, leaving that theater, I was so pleased with the movie we got. It still felt like Michael Bay's hand was in it because they had a lot of shots that paid respects to like the famous Michael Bay shots, like the slow spin around them as they get up from like an explosion or something like that. You have the slow motion shootouts and everything that Michael Bay nailed into that franchise. But they dialed back on that silly nature that Michael Bay kind of got known for and gave you this really grounded, gritty, funny cop drama with these two iconic characters. The movie went on to be a huge success financially, critically, with audience scores being really high too, that going into this one, Bad Boys Ride or Die, I was really excited to see what they were going to do next, and they don't disappoint here either. In this film, the captain that previously died in the last Bad Boys film, his name is kind of getting dragged through the mud because a bunch of news sources are saying that he was essentially one of the people helping the cartel smuggle drugs and guns into the United States. The bad boys don't believe this because they have so much respect for him and loyalty to him that they swear to pretty much free his name from that and like prove his innocence. But in doing so, they paint an accidental target on their own back, and now they're on the run from their own police. We've seen this concept done so many times, but never with these iconic characters, and it's just so much fun watching their chemistry unfold as they're on the run. This movie also plays with the traditional tropes of the two characters, whereas in the other three films, Martin Lawrence is always the character that's on reserve. He's always kind of scared to get into a shootout. He's always kind of like cowering a little bit until the beast is pulled out of him in a shootout. And Mike Larry, Will Smith's character, is the one that's kind of running in guns blazing, but they flip the script here, where in the beginning of the film, Martin Lawrence's character goes through something that makes him feel it's not his time yet, that almost like he's immortal and he can do pretty much anything. There are scenes where he's literally just like closing his eyes and walking through like highway traffic, trying to prove to Mike that his visions of being immortal and that it's not his time yet are true. And it plays for these really comedic moments because we understand that he's mortal, and he's just playing it so over the top and so funny. And Mike Larry's character, Will Smith, something also happens to him in the beginning of this film, and it's giving him panic attacks. So when there's like things are about to pop off and he's about to get in a shootout, he's having these severe panic attacks and kind of like crumbling and having to like breathe through it. And their roles kind of reverse because now Martin Lawrence's character is the one that's running into the combat, and Will Smith's character is the one that's kind of cowering in fear. And I thought that new dynamic added some freshness to this franchise that's been going since the 90s. Couple that with some great action. Like I said before, the two guys that made this film, they do pay respect to the Michael Bay-isms of it all, but they introduced their own new styles of filming action that was really exciting here. One of them specifically, and you could see this scene on like I think Will Smith's YouTube channel, excuse me. Essentially, he has a rig on his chest, and the camera is pointing at his face. And when he goes to point his gun, the rig turns and it goes into like a first-person mode where it's almost like you're watching a first-person shooter. And it's really inventive. And they also, another Michael Bay-ism from the movie Ambulance, where he filmed that whole movie with a drone, they do it in a way here that feels really smooth and really cool for the action, whereas in the Ambulance film with Michael Bay, it was too much. He beat you over the head with it. It wasn't good. Here, it's fantastic. And lastly, the comedy really worked for me here. They don't miss a beat. Their chemistry is fantastic. I and the entire theater were cracking up predominantly throughout most of this film. Some of the jokes with Martin Lawrence's character falls a little flat. Going back to what I said earlier about Martin Lawrence having like this thing happen to him where he had a vision that he's kind of immortal, He talks about that a lot in this film, about like the afterlife and stuff like that. And after a while, I'm like, okay, this joke's not funny anymore. It was funny the first 3 or 4 times you said it, but now an hour in and you're still making jokes about it. I was kind of over it. But every other joke for me landed. And then also the standout of this film is Reggie, Martin Lawrence's son-in-law. He has a scene in this film that had my entire audience out of their seats, standing and cheering and clapping and screaming. It was truly one of the best character arcs in any of the Bad Boy films. So the 2 small problems I really have with this film is some of the jokes don't work, but it's like 5% out of 95%. The other thing I have a problem with is the shootouts and action scenes that take place leading up to the last one all felt kind of hollow because nobody actually ever died. Like, they were all shooting at each other. You know, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's characters are shooting at a bunch of bad guys in a club, but no one actually ever gets hit. No one gets shot. No one gets killed. So it kind of just felt like hollow, and I would have liked more of a body count. Whereas in the last action scene, they kill, I don't know, like 100 people. But just looking back on it, it's just those shootouts felt so meaningless to me because there was no casualties. I would have liked them to have, like I said, a little bit more of a body count. But aside from that, and a pretty weak villain, he doesn't really get a lot of character development, so he kind of sucks. But again, you're not going to the movie for that. You're going for the chemistry between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. I gotta say, I really enjoyed this movie. It had a really compelling story, great action when it was there, great chemistry between the characters, great comedy. It's hard not to recommend this movie. It really is just a crowd pleaser. Overall, I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. It is my second favorite Bad Boys film. I know this is super unpopular, but my first being Bad Boys for Life, then this one, then Bad Boys 1, and then Bad Boys 2. I can't recommend this enough. If you want a good time at the movie theaters, you want to laugh, you want to have good action, go check this out. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming to my channel. Thanks for watching this video. I hope I gave you a reason to go to the movies today. Give me a like, maybe a subscribe, and as always, I'll catch you guys next time.